everybody. Dave Weiss here for the Glue Bomb Show. Well, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know my very first model was a Pyro Triceratops. I built it when I was about 7 years old. My grandmother bought it for me at a flea market, and I've been building models pretty much ever since. And so from time to time, I see a Triceratops kit, and I usually end up picking it up, and I was really interested in this one. This is from Bandai. This is part of their Plannosaurus series, and I have to be honest, this is a cool concept. I wasn't quite sure what to do with it, but I knew I wanted to pick it up. You see, what happens with this one is, before you build the outside, you build the inside. They have you build this nice little Triceratops skeleton, very posable and jointed. Different parts will move up and down. The legs move. And of course, it's a Bandai kit, so it pops together, no glue required. And it went together really nicely. I did this in maybe half an hour. Probably not even. But what's interesting is, after you build it to this level, this could be your finished model. It's not going to be mine, because you see, they also give you the outer body parts. So my original plan with this was I was going to paint this up, and then I was going to just put the parts on the outside, and I was going to do that. But what it turns out is, after you paint it, after you build it, you have to take it back apart if you want to build the dinosaur. So I didn't want to get real involved with putting a bunch of enamel paint on this, right? And yet, and the thing is, I'm being a little crazy here, because you will never see this again, right? Once I put the outer panels on, this is gone forever. And part of me feels like I should just leave it like this. But part of me doesn't want to. And so what I've decided to do is I'm going to do some washes on it. I'm just going to do some very thin, very simple washes that should bring out these details. And so I thought I'd show you what I do here. All right? So I'll be back in a second. All right, to do this, you just need a couple things. You're going to need a handy-dandy paintbrush. I mixed up two different colors here. I started off by mixing up a burnt sienna and yellow to make a yellow ochre, and then just some straight-up burnt sienna there. Sorry, I know this is my palette plate. I use it a lot, so it's got a lot of colors on it. And then I just need a little bit of water and a moist paper towel with a dry portion. That's all you need. So I'm going to start off by dipping my brush in a little bit of the water, and I'm just going to kind of moisten this paint a little bit. I'm going to make it a little less dense, right? Because one of the things that I don't want to do here is put the paint on too thick. We'll start off by doing the skull. So we've got this kind of messy, you don't have to be too neat about it, you just brush it on there. Again, if I was doing this to display this piece, I would take it back apart. But because I'm just doing this because I know it's there, which might be a crazy reason to do it. But okay, you see how the skull looks. Now, we're just going to wipe that away. Just very gently with a paper towel that's just moist, right? Doesn't have to be wet, just a little bit moist. And all we're looking to do is we're looking to take the majority of the paint off of it, but leave paint in all those little nooks and crannies. And that's all you do. The wash is pretty easy. It's a pretty easy technique to do. I'll continue down the spine. Again, Part of the reason I'm not being terribly careful with this is because, first of all, you'll never see this again after I put the outside body on. But secondly, it has to come apart again. So I don't want paint interfering with any of that. So, again, here we go. Again, my ochre's a little on the dark side here. That's okay. Mainly what I want to do is make it look a little less plasticky. I don't think that's an actual word, but I just made it up there. Maybe I should copyright that quick. Just kidding. And a little more bony. I'm not being real thorough with it because, again, once I put the outer part on, you'll never see this again. But, and again, it's just a matter of keeping this paint nice and thin and nice and wet with lots of water. I'm using an acrylic. I should have probably mentioned that. And these are just straight up tube acrylics. I get them at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. And just generally put it on there kind of fast and loose. And you see it looks a lot more like a bone skeleton than like a plastic toy. And that's what I'm going for. Now, truth be known, because of the way this is constructed, you're not really going to be able to do, seal the seams and all that kind of stuff. It's just going to be probably too much to ask. I suppose you actually could if you so desire. But for me, I'm going to kind of build this, I think, more or less like it was intended to be built. And again, just going to have a good time with it. Now, once I have this brushed on, I'm just going to do the last couple finishes here. I'm probably going to go over this and do a burnt sienna wash over it. And what that'll do is that'll give us a little more contrast. Again, I wouldn't have to do any of this because, let's face it, when I build the body over it, we're not going to take this apart again. But I'm going to do a little burnt sienna wash over it now just to show you what that does. I'll just do the head for this. Same thing here. We're just going to brush it on. This will remove some of the ochre for sure. I'm just going to say that in advance. And to be honest with you, I probably should have let the acrylic dry a little more, but I wanted to do a nice demonstration. And again, this just sort of shows, okay, so now it's very brown. But as we start to brush it away, wipe it away, that's the look I was going for. And when we do the body panels, we're going to do something similar. Now, the body panels are cast in two different colors. And so it's going to be a little different as well. Because, again, if I was doing this to be, a really, really well-finished model, I probably would just cover the whole thing, put the whole thing together, and then airbrush it or just brush paint it. Probably do brush painting. But I do want to make it pretty much like it was intended to be assembled, so I'm just going to not bother with the seams, and I'm going to make it into I'm going to make it the way that the folks at Bandai, I think, intended for it to be put together. But there you can kind of see with that how much more bony it looks, how much more skeletal it looks. That was the look I was going for. So that's our first video. I'll show you more later. And here is the finished skeleton. Now at this point, you want to let this dry pretty thoroughly before you disassemble it. But you can see how just putting these two colors of washes on it really kind of makes it look a lot more realistic. And again, I'm not worried too much about getting into all the nooks and crannies because the truth is you'll never see it again. But I thought it was a good piece to demo on because this really has a lot of nooks and crannies. So it's a really good way to show how to do a nice wash. So that's what I have for you today. This was fun. Remember, model building's supposed to be fun. Take care and have a great day.